Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's the Gray Hour, the new happy hour. I'm Nicole Gray, Director of Marketing for O'Gara. And tonight we have a very special guest with us. Laura Schwab, President of Aston in the Americas, is with us this evening. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Nicole. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Do you have your champagne?
Of course I do. Cheers. Cheers, everybody.
And hopefully our guests who have joined us, the first 20 to register received a bottle of champagne as well to enjoy with us. So please enjoy. And do not forget, all clients, all guests, to leave your live questions. And we're going to try to get through as many as possible with Laura directly. So I think it's a good time to start.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready.
So to make sure everyone knows where we are today, where I am is at the O'Gara Motorsport facility at the Thermal Club, one of my very favorite places. And I have a very special vehicle right behind me. Laura, if you want to mention what this is and why it's so special.
Oh yeah, the Vulcan. Well, there's only 24 made, 16 to the US, and anyone that's seen it in person knows how unbelievably special that product is. And with it came like track experiences, and so those customers are obviously very near and dear to Aston Martin, and the car itself is truly stunning.
Absolutely. I think it's a great composition for the evening and a great way for us to begin. So I
It's
think,
a great backdrop, Nicole, because you're sitting at Thermal with a picture of Vulcan behind you, and I'm sitting in my closet. But that's fine. Let's get going.
social distancing, we're getting creative. There's ways to do this. Closets,
Yeah.
a Thermal club, facility, it all works. I think the audience is really excited to learn Laura. And I know I've had the personal privilege and I've been lucky enough to hear you speak about your story, talk one-on-one with our clients at Aston Beverly Hills at private events. And really, your message, what you've shared is so inspiring. And I think leading with what was it like to join the working force? What was that first stage in your life like? And I think we can kind of go through to where you are now.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Well, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, so if you hear the y'alls, that's why. I went to the University of Notre Dame on a tennis scholarship. So at one time in my life, I was a pretty decent tennis player, and tennis was kind of everything for me. And then I realized, your sophomore year, you actually have to pick a major, and I was like, wait, I can't just major in tennis. Um, so I picked the very marketable double major of government and Spanish, which they don't even offer government as a major anymore at Notre Dame. So I picked something that obviously was a very easy conduit to the working world. So when I hit my senior year of college, I sort of panicked, like many do. And I was like, what am I going to do? What do you do with a government degree? Like, okay, I know I'm not going to be a pro tennis player. I'll go to law school. That seems to be like a really smart decision. So took the LSAT. I spent the summer in Europe playing tennis. I go to law school, um, and those were three of the more challenging years of my life. I thought it was going to be like I'm, Elwood in Legally Blonde, and so I sort of like showed up with like my fuzzy pink pen and my notebook, and I literally did the thing like, wait, there's an assignment before you start. I didn't know this. So I was ill prepared for law school for sure, and managed to make my way through. I didn't even really get terrible grades, and I ended up becoming a contract attorney, which there could be some attorneys listening. So huge amount of respect to all the lawyers out there. But as a 24-year-old, 25-year-old, I found myself like, I remember this one day and I was deciding whether we should utilize like a semicolon or a colon. I was like, God, this is a hard decision. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm equipped for this. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't be a lawyer. So the semicolon colon dilemma um, took me out of the law profession.
That was
And
the moment.
yes, punctuation really got me. And I just decided, like growing up in Kentucky, I had finished law school in Kentucky, and I didn't think I was ready to just settle down there and be a lawyer. And I didn't know what was out there for me, but I felt like there was something else. And I had some friends living in California, so I packed my bags and I moved to California without a job. And I took my resume, which basically said I had gone to school and like never worked in my life. And I started applying for jobs, and I basically got rejected from every job I applied for. And the comments were like, "Well, you don't have any experience." And I'm like, "Yeah, no shit. I'm trying to get experience."
I love
Um,
it.
I know. I was like, "Don't you have to start somewhere?" And I was sort of ready to resign myself. That not that being a lawyer in Kentucky would have been the worst thing, but I was sort of resigning myself that that was where I was going to end up. And I'll never forget there was a job description on Monster.com existed at this time, and it was looking for hardworking, and I was like, I got that one. Energetic, that's me. And then there was like something, something, something internet. I was like, oh wow, I've only got like two of the three things these people are looking for. Um, what the hell? I'll apply for the job. And I applied for a job. I walked in the door. I didn't even know what the company did, and it was a little .com in San Diego, California that sold cars online and built like car website. And I went in for the interview, convinced that I was being rejected again. Um, and I started to walk to the door, and they were like, "We want to offer you a job." I was like, "This is amazing!" And like, "We are going to pay you $20,000." I'm like, "Yes!" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, you're supposed to negotiate these things. Like, this sounds and all these stock options, which." I didn't become a multimillionaire at 26, and I started working at the startup company, and ultimately we didn't go public, and things didn't work out the way we'd all hoped, and went along the way, which um, in life always becomes very important, the people that you meet. And this guy had gotten a job at Land Rover and was like, look, startup dream, I hate to break it to you, it's probably not going to happen, but I think I can get you a job as a contractor at Land Rover. um, and you'll be like building our first website and putting this configurator on it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So I so they didn't really even have like a big legal team there, and they didn't have any contractors. And so they said, "Can you write? Do you have a contract for employment?" I was like, "Well, I'm a contract attorney, so yes, I do." So I used my law degree once, and
Amazing.
I wrote my it was worth it, and I wrote my first contract for employment at Land Rover, and then ultimately that's kind of where my career in automotive really started to blossom. Obviously, from the depths of the startup to landing my
Yeah,
first
I love
contract
it.
at Land Rover.
And when you were at Land Rover, and I know we've talked before in different conversations about what was it like stepping into that environment in that role, and what were some of those kind of key moments for you that really have helped develop who you are and how you do business now?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was really the first kind of corporate job I had. I mean, I'll never forget the first day. I was like, what do you wear to a corporate job? And being a good Southern girl, it's important that you always wear a cardigan sweater and a pearl necklace. So that's like the epitome of professionalism. So I showed up at Land Rover, and I think I ended up spending 15 years there, but I certainly remember um, my time there positively, obviously, but significant highs and lows. And first things first, I just, especially in automotive, you sort of start looking for role models. Like, well, what does it look like to be successful in this organization? And I would look around, and in every sort of corner office, it was like all men, and all men in navy suits. And I'm like, okay, I'm never going to occupy one of these offices, clearly, because that's not what it looks like. But I was really keen to find like my space of what does good look like? How do I present myself if
Mhm.
I'm ever invited to the boardroom? And along the way, I've been told everything from I smile way too much to ever be taken seriously. I certainly need to cut my hair because that's a problem. And I'll never forget you have to wear a Navy suit if you want to attend this meeting. And I was like, okay, they can't tell me what to wear. And so the next day I went to the meeting and I showed up in a dress, and they're like, well, we told you need to like pin your hair back and wear a Navy suit. And I was like, well, I guess you're going to have the meeting without me. And they're like, but we can. I was like, I guess I'm in then. So,
I think this is
so
one of my favorite stories you've shared that really resonated with me, and I think will resonate with the audience as well. Going into working for the first time, one of my first internships, at the end of the internship, at the end of the duration, I remember my feedback in the exit interview was two critiques. And one was, if you want to be taken seriously, you need to wear your hair in a bun and you need to stop wearing bracelets. And I left that meeting crying. I know you and I talked about this. I left that meeting crying, thinking, okay, I'm never going to be taken seriously, or I need to shift who I am to be able to be respected. And then really processing that, talking to my parents, I realized I'm going to wear 10 bracelets or 0 bracelets. I'm going to wear my hair fully blown out or in a bun. It does not matter, because I want my work performance to be what matters. I want my actions to show who I am. And hearing that from you, that you had that moment as well, where people are trying to conform or put you in this space of how you should be versus how do you execute and work. And I think that's one of the most inspirational takeaways I've heard from you. And I think the audience will definitely agree.
yeah, and you know what's interesting, Nacole, is I think once I let some of that stuff go and I stopped worrying about what feedback was going to be, or you know, someone asked me once, like, when did it shift for you? I've talked a lot in my career about having imposter syndrome. Like, I was like, they are going to find out I don't know anything and I'm going to lose my job. Like, I'm like a lawyer from Louisville, Kentucky. What do I know about the internet or, the automotive industry? But I think too, like, once I stopped trying to act the way I thought I was supposed to, or some like moderated version of myself, and I just was me. I stopped thinking like, what notebook are they all using, and what pen? And once
Yes.
I let all of that go, and I sort of was like, I've been invited to this meeting, I'm going to speak up, like I know what I'm talking about. That's when people started to remember me as well. And I think that's when I started to build my own confidence. For so long I did carry this burden of like, I don't know if I belong here, and they're gonna find, literally, like, they're gonna find me out. And once I sort of shed some of that to kind of create my own confidence, then people really started to remember me, and some of, for what I was saying, because I didn't look, sound, or act like everyone else, and it started to stand out. So
You're
yeah,
comfortable with yourself,
yeah,
and that shows.
it
I
took
want to
time.
make sure we get through
Yeah,
questions that are coming in. So after this experience of what it was like working at Jaguar Land Rover, you landed your position as president of Aston Martin Americas, the first female leader president at Aston Martin, which is beyond exciting and such a major accomplishment. What was that like? What was that process like? Please let.
yeah. So I know people are like, how did you get this job? So I was actually living in England. I got moved there. I'd been in New York, and I got moved with Jaguar and Land Rover to the UK, running marketing, and actually quite happy. I've met like pretty much every member of the royal family, which is always funny when a girl from Kentucky's meeting like Prince Charles for the first time. People start to really panic that you're gonna like F it up, but I didn't mess up my curtsy. But anyway, I had, again, back to the people you meet along the way. When I was working, very, in basically data entry, I met a guy who ended up being the chief marketing officer at Aston Martin. He contacts me on LinkedIn, and he's like, after all these years, it's been like 15 years, I can't believe we both live in the middle of England. You're working for Jaguar Land Rover, I'm working for Aston Martin. Have you ever taken a tour of the Aston Martin factory? And I was like, and literally, they are right next to each other, like smack dab in the center of the UK, Jaguar Land Rover headquarters and Aston Martin headquarters. And I said, no, and I don't even know that much about Aston Martin. I would love to take a factory tour. So I take him up on it. We go on the tour. I I'll never forget my first time stepping foot to the Aston Martin factory because I'd been in a lot of car factories. I've been in car business. I mean, I'm there for fun on Friday. He opens the door of the factory and it's silent, and I'm like, "Oh no, they're not working on the cars right now." I was like, "That's too bad." He's like, "They are." Like, come in here, and the reason it was so quiet is because of the process of how Aston Martins are made, which
Um,
every Aston Martin is handmade, and it takes like 300 hours to hand make a car. And then once he started talking me through it, I started to pick up on the noises. Like I was like, oh, I hear sewing machines, and he's taking me on this tour, and it's really incredible the hand stitching and what goes into making and manufacturing an Aston Martin. We're standing there on the factory floor, and we're standing in front of a DB11, and it hadn't launched yet. And I was like, what is this car? And he's like, well, here is Andy Palmer, our CEO. Fancy meeting you here, Andy. I was like, hey, Andy. I was like, great job. I was like, these cars are amazing. This process is so cool. And he's like, this is the DB11. And he basically tells me like the entire product plan. And I'm like, this is like great effort. And he's like, and we have been following your career. I was like, you've been following my career. I was like, wow, that's really nice. Thank you. And we'd like you to be part of, the history we're making at Aston Martin. We want you to be part of the journey. And I
wow.
was like, and I go, look at, I must have cursed and I'm sorry. But I was like, holy shit, this is a job interview. I wasn't, I'm like, I'm just here for a factory tour. And anyway, um, Andy's like, it is. And he's like, we'd like you to think about it. Um, so I I go home to my husband and who's British and he's like, tell me about the Aston Martin tour. Like how was the factory? And I was like, and he's like, no, I want to know everything about the cars. Like I've loved Aston Martin since I was a boy. Like so I'm like, oh, they do this, and badges, jewelry, and this. I'm going through the whole thing, and then I was like, and they offered me this job. And, he's like, it was a job interview. I was like, I know it's a bit unconventional, isn't it? And he said, well, what's the job? And so I tell him, I was like, well, president of Aston Martin for the Americas. And he just sort of looks at me and he's like, and he's very sort of reserved and calm. Um, and he said, that's the coolest fucking job in the world. I was
Yes,
like,
I think that's one of the best responses.
so like calm. I was like, I looked at him, I said, it kind of is, isn't it? And yeah, and then I was like, well, what are we going to do? Our life is here in the UK and we're very happy here. And I thought we were going to have to go have some elongated talk over a bottle of wine, which we didn't do. But he's like, we don't have a choice. Like, he's like, where's it located? Like, in Southern California. It's like, well, I guess we're moving. And so I think that's the moment when you know you really got the right partner in life
Yes.
because he didn't think of himself at all. It was like, we're doing this thing.
Fully supportive.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to move on to what happened after moving to California or during that process of some unexpected news that you received.
Yeah. So I'll make this one sort of short and sweet. So Nacole knows, me very well. And for most of my career, I do think I've had like a bit of a chip on my shoulder. Like I'm never going to be married. I don't need anyone. Like I am career focused, and the only way to get like to the next level is for everything in your life to be about your career. And obviously, I ended up meeting Nick, and we got married. Even though I didn't really want to get married, and I was like, look, I'm not changing my name. I'm not doing all this stuff. But we are, and I was like, we're not having children. Cool. But so I moved to the US and Nick comes to see me. We were apart from each other for like 4 or 5 weeks to celebrate our anniversary. And, I'm like, yeah, 4 weeks in my job at Aston Martin. And we're like really happy to see one another. And, I get pregnant and at a age in life that I was like, can you get pregnant at this age? So I'm 4 weeks into a job. I'm the first female president at Aston Martin. I'm one of like, basically 2 or 3 women who've ever had this title in the automotive world. And first, my first feeling about all of it, and this was on me. This wasn't on the side or anything else. This was on me. I was like, they're going to be disappointed that they hired a woman. Every man on the planet wants a job, and I'm 4 weeks in. I've barely moved to California, and I'm pregnant, and so I went through obviously a huge range of emotions. Nick was trying to get his visa, so we only saw each other twice during the pregnancy. He arrived in California like before our daughter was born. It's now 3, turning 4 soon, which is why I'm hiding in the closet, drinking champagne. He seems to find me everywhere I go. But yeah, but it was, it was a set of emotions that I still can feel and remember so well. And obviously, when I made it through my first 12 weeks and I called a Palmer who had hired me and I was like, look, I've got news for you. And he's like, you're not happy. What's going on? I was like, no, well, I'm pregnant. And he's like, that's great. Like, what does this mean? I'm like, I guess I'm going to have a baby and like take a few weeks off and come back. So, which is basically what happened. But yeah, that was a big life shift for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just hearing your story of where you came from, what that path looked like, then to the unexpected pieces, but it's still all aligned. And now seeing not only what you're doing with Aston Martin, but leading into the next question with COVID, what is going on right now for you personally as an organization? I think that's a question that's very relevant for everyone listening in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all of us, like normally you and I would be doing this, seeing one another. So, certainly, I know, certainly COVID has been something that's really so transformed, our world, and none of us could have predicted that middle of July that this is where we'd be in 2020. For Aston Martin, um, for me personally, my life has changed dramatically. I was on airplanes legitimately every single week, and now I'm home, and I'm like, I've seen my husband more in the last however many months than I've seen him in our like 8 years of marriage. I was like, well, he's really good. This is cool. I'm seeing my daughter that I really would go weeks without seeing her. And so there's been a huge personal shift, but obviously at the expense of so much sadness in the world, and we're battling something very difficult, and so many people have lost their jobs. For Aston, I think what our goal has been during this time is really about how do we continue to bring people together. It's something, as you know, Nacole, you all are at O'Gara are so passionate about, and you're so passionate about bringing experiences to people. And when all of a sudden we're like, wait, we're all at home, how do we do that? And for us, it's been about how do we really bring people together,
Yes.
continue to unify people through our, connected love of cars, and how cars make people feel. When you say the words Aston Martin, people instantly smile. And certainly right now, that beautiful emotion of smiling and feeling positivity. So we've obviously done a lot to figure out how we can continue to bring our community together, work with our dealers, stay connected to y'all. I mean, as you know, I send my videos out every week just so everyone sees my face on a weekly basis. We've done some really nice campaigns around cars and coffee at home when cars and coffee got ripped away from all of us.
Yeah.
But it's been really about how do we continue to connect with people. Aston Martin's a brand that we really are so passionate about it feeling personal and that people feel connected to us as people, and you all deliver that so beautifully at O'Gara. So how do we continue to do that when we can't see one another in person. And you all have done some really cool rallies and things like that. But for us, it's about bridging these gaps and bringing a bit of joy into people's lives, not knowing where they are and how they feel about what's happening, and their own personal emotions, and then obviously giving customers options. A lot of, I think everyone's turned to digital experiences as we're doing now, and how do we ensure that we offer customers options along the way, whether it's in person or digital, so that things are on their terms. And I think that's been a huge shift for because of COVID. Things are really moving to our customers' terms, and we're here to make sure they feel comfortable engaging with us. So a lot of work's been done, but it's those we've believed in for a long time. So it hasn't been a huge shift in what we feel. It's probably a slightly different execution than we're used to.
Exactly. I think moments like these are, it's finding ways to still engage and connect, and more than ever when we are feeling separated and that we can't physically be with one another, which is such a huge part of being human. It is finding these opportunities to still have the human element. And automotive really allows us to do that in one of the most beautiful ways, where we can still be safe,
Yeah.
following CDC guidelines, social distancing, but really feel that love and that exhilaration of just being alive, as simple as it is to drive through the Malibu Canyons or of the PCH, or coming to the Thermal Club and to drive on the track. It's still a way for, I think, our community to really connect and to feel alive. And this moment in itself is something very special that we're honored to be a part of. So thank you, Laura. I want to move on to one piece about which really segues into your team has launched the Make Every Drive Count campaign. We've embraced that in Beverly Hills, and love to learn more about where that was inspired from and what that looks like.
Yeah. So when we all first like heard about COVID, and I think we all will remember how it felt. It was Friday, the 13th of March. And we always say that's kind of when things really started to change. We put a group together, like a brainstorm group, as I called it, really about how we could cater to our customers, stay on top of like what was happening in the world and how brands were responding. And I think what really started to resonate with us was how people were utilizing their cars. And so, several stories I'll tell you, and sort of like one that was very personal for me too. When all of a sudden graduations were drive-through, and like okay, and teachers were like driving by their students' houses and like honking their horns and waving at them, or birthday celebrations ended up being from people's cars. Um, we started to start thinking about like, wow, our cars are taking on not that they didn't do it before, but a whole new meaning. Because to your point, Nacole, it's like, well, this is a safe environment. And I'll never forget, like my niece who's in 8th grade, like she was so excited for her 8th grade graduation, which we're like, oh, you've got many more graduations, but this one was really special. And she sent me a video of her like out the sunroof of her car, like crying, and the teachers are watching. And all of a sudden, we started thinking about how important people's cars have become. For some, as a place to celebrate. Sometimes it's become a sanctuary. Like I just need to like get out of this house. And for me, I think I was kind of having one of those moments. Like I think I need to get a little air. I'm driving a DB11, and I got in my car, and I live in San Clemente. I started driving through my town, and I was just like, this moment feels so special to me. And so for us, we started thinking about how drives, fit into our life now, from these moments of celebration to sanctuary, to all of the hardworking healthcare workers going to save lives every day, and what their drive probably means to them as they're navigating something they've never seen before. And so we love this idea of what a drive can mean in your life, bringing joy, and that every drive should feel special. And so we launched a campaign around Make Every Drive Count, because I think we all know now to not take any moments for granted. And to your point, Nacole, the simplest of drive or a Make Every Drive Count rally with other people, cars have still been a way, and they always will be this way to connect humans through passion and love and experience. And so we're just really excited for people to partake in it and be part of it. And it'll continue to evolve. But that was really the inspiration behind it.
Thank you for sharing. And it's already been so well received in Beverly Hills with our clients and community. And we can't wait to continue to offer those type of experiences. So very, very excited to see what's to come. I want to make sure we make time for client questions that are coming through. So this one is a fun one, Laura. It is, what is your personal favorite model if you can choose one and if there's a tie for two?
So again, I don't want to be cliche about this, but I think most people, well, hopefully, we're launching an SUV called DBX, and it comes out in the next few weeks. And it really is exceptional. And with a dog and a 3-year-old and all this stuff, I think when it comes to SUVs, there's like, oh, but I'm going to compromise performance. And the first time I got to drive DBX in the UK, again, I had that like Aston Martin grin on my face that you just can't take off when you start driving an Aston Martin. So I'm obviously quite partial to DBX. The other car that I love, I'll give three, right? The other car I love, because I'll never forget, when I got the job at Aston, I'm living in the UK, and they're like, okay, spend 2 weeks here, and we're gonna let you drive all the cars. And so they would, like, each day or 2 days, I would get a different Aston Martin. And I literally drove the cars like 5 miles an hour because I was like, I can't hurt this car. It's way too nice. But I'll never forget the first Vanquish I got into, and there was a guy driving behind me, like, what is this person doing? She's driving so slowly, but I couldn't believe that I had, like, was, got the job and was driving a car like that. And then, from a Land Rover standpoint, I am a huge Defender fan. People that know me love that. I know that I love Defender, and even the new one. But I'm really partial to the old ones. And Defender 110 is got it's just like such an iconic shape and a cool car. And the process of how they build them, they used to build them was so interesting. So Astons and probably an old Defender thrown in there.
Great answers. And I think we're all very excited for DBX. So definitely,
Yeah, we're
new.
weeks away. We are weeks away. So the first production vehicle came off the line. We're building those actually down in a new factory in Wales, and the car's out at Silverstone right now with some journalists. It's phenomenal. It is a sports car, but I put a car seat in a DB11 easily, but this probably will make things a little bit easier. But I'm not giving up on my sports cars either. I want them all.
A mix. And I'm a SUV kind of girl, so I cannot wait to drive it and experience it firsthand. Looking forward to it. We have another fun one that I think is great for that Southern California lifestyle, driving through the coast, San Diego, Orange County, Beverly Hills, Westlake. What are some of your favorite streets or canyons, and what do you like to listen to while you're driving?
So for my just sort of like, I want to just go take this car and drive. I am all about starting on the PCH down here in San Clemente and just working my way up north kind of as far as I can go. There's as a girl growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, Californians, I hope you all don't take it for granted, but you grow up in Louisville, Kentucky, and my fourth time living in California, but that view and what the water looks like, and I don't know, no matter what's happening in the world, to have that kind of visual. And if I make sure I get all the light green, then I don't have to stop too much. If there's a few canyons around here too, where you can unleash a bit and have a little bit of fun. But for me, there's something so magical about that drive on the PCH that I found myself during COVID at least once a week. I just go for a drive. It's become like sort of this really nice moment. Now, my music choices can vary, Nacole. You know, so uh, the most recent, and I know this sounds like a bit random, it'll probably put into context my age, but so I'm a Guns N' Roses fan, and I have this Guns N' Roses t-shirt that's Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. And I was like, when's the last time I listened to like 1 and 2 back to back? And so like that's what I've been listening
That's
to
your
as of
go-to.
late. I know. Yeah, I've always been a Guns N' Roses fan. So I don't know. I'm rock,
I love
alternative,
it. That's a good
country,
combination. PCH, kind of roses. It's perfect. Great
Windows
time.
down.
Breathe, escape, reset. I want to make sure we get through a few more questions. This one is about F1. And I know a side story. So this question from the client is, are you excited for F1 to start back up again? But I think also showing one or sharing one of your favorite F1 experiences would be fun as well.
Yeah, so the F1 season started, and I think they've all been really excited about how well it's been going. And for us, this year we're Aston Martin Red Bull Racing, and I think people will know next year it's Aston Martin Racing. So we're separating from Red Bull, and we're certainly really excited about this year, obviously, and then certainly next year. F1's really important to us. And in my role, I've been fortunate enough to go to many F1 races. And there's something very, very special when you're there. You can't believe like the fearlessness of drivers and obviously the passion of the fans and everything else. But I was in Montreal. I was at the race in Canada, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to do a hot lap with Martin Brundle?" And I was like, "Oh, well, all right then, sure, why
Yes.
not?" And you get in an Aston Martin with Martin Brundle, and he's so incredibly nice. But to actually be driving, a lap of like what Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton that they're going to be driving, it just was so unbelievably cool. And yeah, they filmed my expression, which was like a lot of smiling, and then like, holy shit, because we're going really fast taking some of these turns. But yeah, F1 is a huge passion of mine now. I set my alarm on Sundays and make sure I'm watching qualifying, and it's great that we've been able to start the season, and certainly we're excited about this year, and then really cool things to come for Aston Martin.
Very cool things, and love hearing that story. A very epic story that will be
That's
in
a
that.
great drive.
We have another one that is more personable. It's about your favorite car movie. So, is there a film that you love that just resonates with you?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I don't know if we consider the Bond franchise a car movie, but it's impossible as a fan of Aston Martin not to talk about Bond, and certainly Goldfinger being one of my favorite Bond movies of all time. And I think too, because there's so many references to Kentucky and like Fort Knox, so I mean maybe there's like the Kentucky part of it. Um, but so I'm a huge Bond fan, and certainly with No Time to Die coming out in November, we're super excited. We've got 4 cars in the movie, most cars we've ever had in a Bond movie.
So,
But that's like super exciting. So I'm a huge fan of the Bond franchise as a whole, even the ones where people will be like, that wasn't a good one. I like all of them.
you still love
Um,
it.
in addition to that, um, I watch a lot of Cars in this household with a small person, and what's wrong with Days of Thunder? So I mean, I like all car movies, but I mean, I'm so passionate about. I've always loved the Bond franchise, and this is like a really special year. So I know a few of the twists of the new film. So I say make sure everyone see it when it comes out later this year.
Yes, and you said Q4
Yes,
November.
November. So, it's supposed to be released in spring. It got moved because of COVID, but yeah, we've got the original DB5. There's a Valhalla in there. There's a V8 Vantage, and there's a DBS Superleggera. So you really got a really interesting mix of Astons in the film too.
Excellent. Well, we cannot wait to see the film, and I think now it's on everyone's calendars, getting ready for
Yeah, mark
November.
your calendar. Let's hope
Uh,
we're all going to movie theaters, or who knows how films will get released in the future.
right, but it's going to happen one way or another, and
It
it's
will. It's ready to go.
exactly. This is a great one from a client. If you were going to take an Aston home, which one suits your style and delivers a driving experience you personally enjoy? So very specific for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm in a DB11 right now, which I really I love the DB11 for for everyday driving and even for long trips. It is fantastic. But I switched out of a DBS Superleggera, and you know, I do think like there's something. I mean, I would put my daughter in her car seat in the back of that. There's something about just the roar of that car that I don't know. And anything that could have happened during your day, you sort of forget about when you get behind the wheel. All of the cars are unbelievably special. They each have their own personality, as you know, Nacole. Um,
They
and
do. They do.
yeah, and I think when DBX comes out and I start using it as a daily driver, I might be like, no, I'm DBS Superleggera, but I don't
Yes.
know. You can be both. It depends on your mood but yeah, there's how you spec the car too ends up being so indicative of your personality. Like what colors resonate with you, and I love contrast stitch. I love um, different colors that are like unexpected. I'm in this intense mood, maybe 11, and right now I'm loving it. I love the way the car sort of looks in the natural sunlight. Yeah, sometimes it's depending on mood, but yeah, the TBS Superleggera probably there's 715 horsepower. It's pretty spectacular.
Cannot go wrong. I agree with
Yeah,
you
you're not going to go wrong in an Aston,
at
period.
all. Exactly. And
Yeah,
I think to touch on the spec is really such an exciting part of your vehicle because it does represent you and your personality, and being able to see the range and the options and what you can create is that much more special.
it's really limitless. I mean, it was one of those things when I went on that tour, and they were like, because we've got this division called Q,
Yeah.
which again, a great name, so cool. And then to understand that legitimately they can do anything you want. I mean, that's the beauty because our cars are handmade. Um, I was just seriously blown away. I mean, I was focusing on like colors and stitching and colored brake calipers and things like that, and then to know that, I mean, legitimately, if I wanted like our dog face stitched to the headrest, we're like, okay, we could do that too.
Wonderful.
I'm not doing that, but you could.
You
Um,
could.
you could if you wanted to. And that's where again I think um, for Aston, it's just so special. And when I joined the company, I wanted to be part of something that didn't resemble anything else. And because we're an independent company, we don't have a big brother that, everything, we build everything from the ground up, like DBX. We're not borrowing someone else's platform and then trying to like make it like an Aston Martin. This thing was designed from the ground up as an Aston Martin. And I remember when I joined the company, I said, I want to be part of something that I'll never forget. And I want to be part of something special. And I feel really fortunate that that's the company I joined.
It definitely is. And just seeing what you've done and what you continue to do is exciting to be a part of, and love working with you and your team and seeing what we're doing in Beverly Hills and with O'Gara. I want to make sure as we're running now, it's the last 15, we still have questions coming in. So
Okay.
let's see how many we can get through. This one is, what is your favorite classic Aston?
Again, it will sound generic, but I do love a DB5, and we've started this DB5. We've got this DB5 continuation where the car has like all the gadgets, but I think for me, because that was probably the first time I like really understood when I saw Goldfinger. I was like, wow, look at that. So that's probably my favorite classic, which is probably a little cliche, but I think a lot of people would say the same thing. But I'm the person that has like the DB5 Lego kit that I put together with all the little gadgets and stuff. Slight obsession. What's wrong with it?
This is a question for me that's inspired by when you were growing up, did you ever play with Hot Wheels or were you drawn to cars, anything in your childhood, or did it happen later in life?
It definitely happened later in life. I mean, sports was always kind of my thing. And my I don't know if my dream was I was going to be like one of the first female ESPN like sports announcers. Like that was like I wanted to be a sports announcer, like and be on television. Um, so I was kind of always into sports, but I was definitely more like Cub Scouts and stuff. Like my brother was making like soapbox derby cars, and I was like supposed to be making quilts and brownies. I'm like, I don't think so. So I definitely had a tendency to sort of like veer toward um, things that were more car related. And then, I think it was a passion that probably came around a little bit later in life. But I think once I understood what cars mean to people too, I think that's when really the transformation happened. So
The love
sports
developed.
were always yeah, sports were always primary. Were you always a car person?
Well, so I was always a girly girl person and I had my Barbies and my dolls, but then when my brother wasn't looking, I would take his Hot Wheels or I'd play Need for Speed. So it's these very surreal moments now being behind the wheel or driving and thinking this is very Need for Speed or this is what I was imagining when I was a kid playing with Hot Wheels. But I think it's fun to see when people really started embracing automotive or how it became a part of their life and seeing how it just naturally builds. It really
Yeah,
is.
it's funny with my daughter because I try to not push it on her. I was like, I want her to pick and choose what she wants. She's obsessed with cars. So that's good news for the family.
Definitely. We have another question coming in about Monterey Car Week. Pebble Beach Car Week, we know is canceled. With that said, do you have a favorite memory for you that was significant that you'd want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were all disappointed for Monterey Car Week to get canceled. I think we knew it was coming, but I for so long I had attended. Then when I lived in England, unfortunately not. It was more going to Goodwood, which was obviously very very cool. But I think I came back to the U.S. I missed that first Pebble because I had literally like I had my baby the weekend of Pebble Beach, and so the next year, right, I got like 2017, and I hadn't been to Pebble Beach and to Monterey Car Week in many years, and we had created something that I thought was really special. So we sort of did this analysis, like what do all the other brands do, and you're like, okay, I sort of get the formula, and I was like, we're not doing that. I said, this is a brand that we welcome everyone. You don't have to be an owner to be able to fall in love with Aston Martin and to experience what the brand sort of feels like. And so our approach to Pebble that year was sort of taking over this place in Carmel and really embracing the community in Carmel and letting as many people as possible. We catered to children and did like dog adoptions, and it was this. I remember, and I think Candace from our team is on the call, and it's a lot of her genius ideas that came up with it. But we're kind of like, if how would Pebble, how would it feel from an Aston Martin perspective? And we think of the brand as so warm and welcoming,
Yes.
and that was really kind of what we created. And I remember that first year having been back here and it was really emotional because connecting with our customers in a place where is obviously so beautiful, but everyone's passionate about it. It was really memorable. So we've now had lots of time to plan for what next year is going to look like. And
Exactly.
we had some really cool ideas for this year too that we're sad not to be able to share with all of our customers. And again, I always say like whether you own an Aston or not, you're on this call right now. You came to see us in Carmel, like you are part of our family, and we love you for loving this beautiful brand that's been around for 107 years. Um, so we've decided next year will be better than ever. We've got a lot that we planned for this year, and we'll be ready for it next August. But it's a disappointment for so many of us, obviously. But it's going to make it that much better.
Exactly. I know it gives us something that much more to look forward to next year. I know thinking back to exactly what your team created in Carmel was so special and so on brand and really accessible for the community. And my personal favorite moment was seeing the DBX for the very first time and how that was presented. So very.
Yeah, that was when people saw DBX for the first time. I mean that, and I think, the year, maybe 2017, we had, maybe we had the Lagonda concept, we had Valkyrie, we had Valhalla, but when you sort of like, take the cloth off the car, and you sort of hear people's like collective response to it. Again, we're reminded like what all the hard work is for, and it's really so people can have that sort of beautiful feeling of love. I mean, sometimes I'm like, we're matchmakers. We help people fall in love with the most beautiful cars and the most beautiful art in the world, and certainly that's how we think of Aston.
Agreed. And seeing someone's response for the first time of seeing the vehicle and the design, and then a step further to actually drive it and get behind the wheel, it really, you feel it vicariously through whoever's experiencing it. You can see that what resonates and why it resonates.
Yeah, absolutely. We do like our own little mini concours there, and so people bringing their cars and telling us their stories of their cars. I mean, that's obviously that's the best.
Hearing the stories. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to get to a couple more questions. And again, to the audience, thank you for typing in your questions. If we do not get answers to you, we will make sure to respond offline after this episode so everyone gets to hear from Laura. But I know we have a few more minutes. And this question is a little bit more general. What about the future of Aston are you most excited about, Laura?
Yeah, I think it's been, for me, I'm going on, I can't believe it, like 4.5 years with Aston, and the ambition to launch all of the new cars, um, to see it becoming a reality is what's incredible. So, um, for us, the launch of BBX is really monumental. I mean, it's a complete game changer for us. It's been for other brands that have launched SUVs. We think this one is really special. It's the most beautiful SUV in the world, and it's not like oh, this is the comment everyone says. Legitimately, it is the most beautiful SUV. That was the, the design brief, and I think the designers really nailed it. So, in the immediate, I'm looking forward to the launch of BX. I think future wise, you know, the sky's the limit for us. We've got huge ambitions on launching the rest of the cars. We've got Valhalla coming out. We revealed the Vanquish design concept at Geneva, a year or so ago, and so I think we've started to show what portfolio can look like, what engines can mean for the brand, and then obviously we've got um, F1 on the horizon. We have our own team next year, so there's a lot to be excited about for Aston. And again, I think we continue to do it with a passionate group of people that you know we hold true to what makes the brand special, and it's that cars are handmade, and no, no one does the way we do it anymore, and that's what makes the brand special. But um, once I get through the launch in a few weeks, Nicole, then I'll let you know what the next thing is. That's
It looks
the immediate priority.
a few busy weeks ahead, very exciting, pivotal weeks that we're looking forward to. I want to make sure I get through at least one more before we wrap up. Um, this one is back to your role of President of Aston Martin Americas. If you could share what has been one of your favorite highlights. That's just a moment where you felt almost surreal. And then the second would be what would be one of your most biggest challenges that you're able to learn and grow from?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably my greatest highlight have been our times at Pebble Beach. So we have our whole team go to Pebble. So everyone works. So we don't hire like random people to come like work and represent the brand. Like literally, legitimately, my whole team comes. And when we finish the event, we all stay the last night and we sort of sit around a fire and drink many bottles of wine, but we do this sort of like game of high and low, like what were our highs, what were our lows, and what happened across the week. And I just remember how we felt like I'm obsessed with teams. Everyone knows about me, and what it means to be part of a team. And I remember, last year and even the year before that, sitting around and looking at the people that I have the privilege of working with every day and feeling quite emotional about it. Like, that we had pulled off what we had done and delighted our customers in a way that I don't know if we ever thought was possible, but to look at this group of people and know, like, I do anything for them. And I think we collectively felt that way about one another. And so those are moments that just have touched my heart, to go from like days of getting to be with our customers, which is so special, and then to have this moment with the team. So that really probably um, are the highs. And again, the the challenges, the lows. They I think when I got here and I moved from the UK, and I knew there was work to do. Like, we were getting ready to launch all these cars, and we needed to rebuild some of our relationships and rebuild our relationship with our customer base and so loyal. Um, and I was pregnant, and I take calls like from anywhere from midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and I think just kind of adjusting to all of it. My husband was away, and I just remember feeling like, wow, I don't know if I anticipated all that this change was going to bring, but you make tough choices in life, and you stick through it, and then to have that joy of that moment, like with my whole team, it's just really the delight of being together. Um, yeah, that's really special. But that first year, I would be totally lying if I said it would be. I was learning a new job, buying a house in a country that I'm from, but I didn't feel like I fit in England or in the U.S. All of a sudden. It was a tough transition. So I'm happy that I put a power to it.
Yes, and I think it's greatly appreciated just to hear the authenticity and what it was like to be in your shoes and what your journey has been. And I couldn't be more grateful or honored to have the privilege of working with you, collaborating with you, representing Aston Martin, representing Aston Martin Beverly Hills and O'Gara and Tom O'Gara. It's been an amazing adventure, and it just continues to get better and better, even as we're navigating these very interesting times. I think more than ever, it showed us that when you really have this deep affinity for a brand like Aston, that it's going to continue just to build deeper and that much closer. And I think we're seeing it, and just seeing our audience tonight who's joined us. Thank you for taking the time to want to be a part of this, to ask questions to Laura. Again, if I did not get to your question, we will get you an answer. And Laura, I can't thank you enough for being part of this.
Oh, Nacole, thank you so much. I just really quickly, I just want everyone to know, I've been in the automotive industry for a very long time, and sometimes along the way, you meet really special dealerships, and certainly Aston Martin of Beverly Hills and O'Gara. Tom O'Gara is a very good friend of mine, and has been a unbelievable support for me as I've navigated learning Aston Martin. But it's not that I just feel this way. I mean, this dealership has won our top award, our Wings Award, um, every year that we've had it, and it's based on not just because we sell cars. It's really we put more emphasis on customer experience, and I Nacole, we become good friends, and your approach to the whole dealership approach to the customers and experience, and that having an Aston Martin isn't just about owning a car, it's about being part of something really special. And I you all inspire me every day to work harder, try different things, and obviously give our take great care of our customers, which we feel like are part of our family. So thanks for again, not every dealer puts on an event like this, and
Thank
I'm
you.
humbled to have been asked. So thank you very, very much for having me. And thanks to everyone who called in, and thanks for your love of cars, especially, and Aston Martin, of course. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you to our audience. Thank you, everyone, and have a great
Thanks,
night.
thanks for the champagne.